What's up, everybody, and welcome to my channel. It is Welcome to China and welcome back. I am first and foremost very excited to have you all here today with me on this journey and on this story time. But before I get started, please, if you haven't already, please give this new video a thumbs up at the bottom and please subscribe. And speaking of subscribers, you guys, I have made it to 100 subscribers. I know that is sounding like crazy, like that's not a big deal, but you guys, it really is a big deal. Like when you're starting up YouTube and things of that nature, it really takes a long time. So I am very thankful to my 101 subscribers. And you guys already know, please let your friends know about my channel, because I'm going to say, y'all, I'm trying to reach this amount of followers, decent amount of subscribers. So please give your girl some love, and I will deeply appreciate it. So with that being said, the reason why I'm in a new space today is because I'm kind of working from home. I got a new job, yay. So in the lieu of things, this corona shit is going on, and I am blessed to have a job on a new political campaign, so that's great. I am officially out of the call center life. That was short-lived, so I am very happy about that. Little poll on Instagram, and you guys were saying, like, I really want to hear the story, China, about why I left the Bernie campaign early, prematurely. When I say early, let me just break it down from the beginning. If somebody's going to ask me why I left, this is what happened. So, as many of you know, and many of you may not know, I went to school for acting. I was not a political science major. I did not do any of this shit. I was an actor. That's what I do. That's what I did. I shouldn't have said it in the past tense, but whatever. So I'm an actor. But I ended up really falling in love with Bernie's message, and I got recruited as a volunteer back in, let's say, 2016. Yeah, back in 2016 when I was in college. So that's when I kind of got into politics, because I started off as a volunteer. I ended up being a super volunteer. They cohorts me to like do a lot of leadership things on the campaign, and I became really close friends with one of my bosses and his wife, and they were very good to me, his mother included. So that's kind of my political family who really got me started on this journey. So with that being said, time passed and I needed a new job, and since I was about to go into my senior year, my old boss actually reached out to me. I was like, hey, like I have this. So it was this woman who was running for Congress, her name will be whatever, and she basically was needing more organizers, and what I am was a political organizer. So basically when you do political organizing, you are the movement. You reach out to volunteers, you deal with people every day. You have to deal with a lot of personalities, people who are really fired up, people who don't know shit, people who just got into politics, and people who think that they know more than you, especially being a young person. So with that being said, it's a very personable job, and it was something that I was good at. And since I liked, Democrats and the people, I accepted the job. I needed the money. So I ended up falling in love with politics at that point, and I loved how the hustle and bustle of it worked, and I loved my partner, and it was great. We had a good time. But with that being said, let's fast forward. We ended up winning that, but I didn't want to keep going. I wanted to go and pursue my acting, so I said, okay, I'm gonna give politics a little stop for now. So now we're going to go ahead and fast forward to about a year and a half after I got out of school. So everybody knows, and I didn't get to that story, the why I left Chicago story, but everybody knows basically when I got done with school, I was still in the hustle and bustle of acting, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided to move home, and I was working at Starbucks, and I was about to become a substitute teacher, and I needed a reference for my substitute teacher job, whatever. And I ended up reaching out to my boss. We will call him Monroe. So I ended up reaching out to Monroe, and I was like, hey, Monroe, would you mind, being my, point of contact for like this substitute job? And he's like, China, I have a job for you. And I'm like, well, what? And he's like, it's for Bernie. You can work for the Bernie campaign. And I was just like, okay, like tell me more. Like I was so caught up into wanting to do my acting stuff. I was like, okay, so like what is it? What's the tea? And basically he goes on to tell me that this job is in New Hampshire. I said, New Hampshire? What is a bitch gonna do in New Hampshire? And he was like, it's a really good opportunity. You make X amount of money. And this is what I am going to say about being a political organizer, especially for a high profile campaign. It doesn't matter if it's for Senate, Congress, front runners, especially presidential campaigns. If you are a part of a union, or if you really have you know, an organization that really gives a fuck about you, you get paid good money. So I'm already going to take that disclaimer out. Bernie paid me very well. Very, very well. Very well. Best job I've ever had, especially being an actor. So Bernie definitely takes care of his people when it comes to funds. So those donations really come down to helping us win. Even though we didn't get shit done all the way, it's definitely a really good thing about being on the campaign. So that being said, I said, okay. I talked to my mom about it, and I talked to my dad about it, and I talked to my grandparents, and they were like, I guess you should really go for the opportunity. And I said, what? They wanted me to go for this opportunity? And with that being said, I went for it. Let's fast forward again. 2 weeks later, in September, I moved to New Hampshire. We do these things called supporter housing, and it's when you stay with someone who is really passionate about the campaign, and they open their home to a stranger, and they literally let you live with them, a stranger, because they believe in the democracy and our people in the movement. And I did it. I stayed with a wonderful woman. I will call her Sally. I stayed with Sally. She is amazing. To this day, me and Sally are girls. I love Sally. She's like a second, third mother to me. So I ended up staying with this lovely woman by the name of Sally, and I began my life. I started to go to work. My days would really consist of reaching out to volunteers, really being able to grasp these people of New Hampshire. It was completely different. And I did switch around where I worked, what cities I was in. So the thing about working in politics is, it is politics and politics. And coming into it, they gave me a city that needed some love, but it was tough. Not everybody is going to love Bernie. That's the thing. Not everybody is going to love your candidate, even if they're in the same party. Not everybody is going to love who you're working for, who you're fighting for. So they sent me to this place, and it was called Pelham, Wyndham and Pelham. And if anybody knows about New Hampshire, these places are very bougie. They're very snooty, and they love Donald Trump. They have Trump 2020 plastered out all over. These people are very passionate. And that's where I was. And yes, I was a black woman going to Wyndham and Pelham. And I was discouraged, I'm not gonna lie. It was hard to be in a place where people did not support, and I was used to being in a place with Democrats and people being supportive. So as work started to go on, my first 2 weeks, it was tough. It was tough. It was hard to recruit for volunteers. I was calling people, they didn't want to talk to me. People were voting for Donald Trump, and I ended up meeting one of my favorite volunteers to this day, who was actually a great friend of mine here. Her name is Lauren. And that was the one gem that I had out of working in Wyndham and Pelham, was Lauren. She saved me. She ended up living outside of Cambridge now, but her hometown was Pelham, and she knew that these people really needed to hear Bernie's word, his gospel. So her and I really worked together a lot. We would go and canvass, and if y'all don't know what canvassing is, it's when somebody goes and knocks on your door. I know a lot of you probably haven't even had people knock on your door. A lot of people knock on doors and talk about different politics and policies and all these things. So her and I did that together, and she made my canvassing so much better. So shout out to Lauren. So with that being said, in politics, things change. People get let go, things happen. So, you know, some shitty shit happened, and somebody on my team ended up getting let go. And the town that I really wanted was Portsmouth. Anybody who's from New Hampshire, Portsmouth is beautiful. If you're from Michigan, it's like a Royal Oak. It's one of the most beautiful, most bougie, kind of villagey, young people places to live. It's gorgeous. And that was the city that I lived in with Sally. So I wanted to be in Portsmouth. So I remember I told my supervisor at the time, I said, I want Portsmouth, what I need to do. And I believe that they might have doubted me a little bit, you know, about whether my higher ups and my bosses would approve me, but I was confident. I said, I need this. I want to work here. And something specifically that my supervisor told me was, you know, well, you need to explain the reasons of why you needed to be here. And at first I was like, well, I'm not from here. I'm not from this city of Portsmouth, but I knew that I had connections and I was building friends and things like that. So I pulled all these things out of my ass and I said, listen, I want it, and it got approved. So again, they sent me over to Portsmouth. And something that I am going to say, and I want everybody to take this from this whole conversation, is don't miss your beat. And it's going to be an underlining, basically, theme of this whole thing is you have to go for what you know, and you can't give up, and you cannot not have faith in things like that. You have to move by faith and not by sight. And that's the thing that I really want people to get, is how I'm keeping my faith through this whole thing. So with that being said, I got a new town. I had new volunteers. I had people who were kind of like, oh, how did she get this place? What did she do special? I just asked for it. You don't get shit unless you ask for it. Everybody else had the same opportunities and they didn't ask for it. So I asked for it and I got it. I'm a black woman in New Hampshire. Ask for it, you want it, you got it, period. You gotta go for what you want. So I got the town that I wanted and I started to work. I felt good. I said, I know how this shit works. I had my volunteers in and out, in and out, in and out. I had an office, it was huge. And since we had different changes going on in our side of our spectrum when it comes to like my coworkers in our region, the office was just sitting there. It was dormant. Once the organizer left, nobody was in there. Nobody wanted to touch the office. So my coworker and I, who was my coworker and I, we sat in that office. And she came and she made sure I wasn't by myself. She came and made sure the old dude didn't come back for us. Like, she made sure that I was good. So we grinded, and we were 2 black women in New Hampshire. Grinding. So we ended up getting the office together. I ended up getting it cleaned. We had my first barnstorm, which is this thing where people get recruited to come in and we meet everybody. And when I had my first barnstorm, I was so nervous. And I invited all of my bosses, all of my higher ups, because I wanted them to see me in action. I'm one of those people where I'm like, if it ain't shit going on, it looks like I'm not doing shit. And I wanted them to see me in action. I was working it. It was just me, and I was in a huge city. My city was huge. It was enough people there, and it had enough coverage, and it was that important enough that it could have been 2 organizers there. And I'm gonna say that confidently, it definitely could have been, but I did this shit off the hip. And where I had been placed originally, I didn't get any of that leverage. So it was something that really, really worked out. So we ended up grinding it up at the office, and then we're gonna go ahead and fast forward to November. Bernie comes to town, and this is really when the grind really started for me, and when I was like, we're really in the grits of this shit. I work 6 days a week, 40 plus hours. We will work 12 to 9, and then when it was GOTV, get out to vote time, the last 3-4 weeks, we would work, sometimes 12-hour days, sometimes 8, 9, 10-hour days. But, being a part of a union, they didn't work us as hard as they could, so I appreciate that. But with that being said, we were grinding. I didn't have a life. I didn't have a life at all. My life was given to politics. And that's something that's very interesting when you are moved. They move people from all across the country to come work on different presidential campaigns, and it's all these different people, and they want diversity. But I will say I've seen a lot of people of color leave the campaign during my time. I did. Somebody had to say it, I did. And my coworker, who was also black, she brought these things up to me, and I said, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but to be in New Hampshire and be somewhere so specific, it's not for everybody. You don't have to pass. It's not about passing your race or things like that, but it's a very specific type of people who live here, and you have to be a very specific type of person to deal with these people. So back to being in November, Bernie comes to town, and I did this thing called a field pitch. And what a field pitch is, and I can probably insert some shit in here, is when you have to introduce him, you have to do a speech. So I was hyped up. I was like, yes, I'm amped up. Like, Bernie is literally coming to town. And originally I was going home for like a 2-week Thanksgiving break, and I was going to miss him. But the way that the planets aligned, and because of how Jesus is, I ended up getting to introduce him. And in that moment, I was able to get a picture with him and all these things. And I was like, I'm really fighting for something. I'm really, really fighting for a revolution. And things were great. Like, I'm still in the story, and y'all are probably like, Chynna, nothing bad is happening. Like, nothing is... No, I'm still gonna get there, but with that being said, it was good. Once GOTV started, it became to be the talk of what's gonna happen next. Keep in mind, I'm here from September to February. February 11th is the election. And there's the talks of what's gonna happen next, and things come up. A lot of people didn't know what was going to happen. We were very unsure, and we weren't getting answers from our higher ups. Campaign managers wasn't giving shit up. Nobody was giving shit up. And what ended up happening was a lot of our higher ups and our bosses specifically in New Hampshire, they started to make promises that they couldn't keep. You'll be able to go here. You'll be able to move up here. I was very good at my job. I definitely should have became a regional after, and I didn't. So it's fine, things happen, you still make good money, but you definitely miss out on different opportunities when a lot of things aren't explained to you. So that was kind of like the first thing. Once February hit, nobody really knew where they were going. So we're gonna go ahead and back it up, and I'm gonna go back to what happened in GOTV. So GOTV is basically a get out to vote time. This is going to be now in the timeline, basically January and February. So since people were kind of still iffy about what was going on, you know, we were just trying to focus on GOTV, but the talks about where we're going next was something that was very, very hard on us, and something that, you know, it kind of fucks with your workflow, because you don't really know what's going to happen next. But, you know, we continued to push through, and it was definitely a grind. It was very long hours, 12 to 12. It was just crazy. We were waking up at 6 in the morning to be there at 6:30 to send out canvassers at 7, and then I would be there till 8, had a call from 9:30 to 10. It was crazy. You know, we were grinding. But what I did realize about this shit is that when you really, really work for something, you can be successful. We ended up winning. We won New Hampshire. And why New Hampshire is so important to the campaign, and why it's so important, is because New Hampshire sets the stage. These New Hampshire motherfuckers really, really know some shit, and they want to say that their opinion matters. So we are just those gestures in that game. And we ended up winning New Hampshire, and it was a great feeling. It was a great feeling, but motherfuckers still didn't know where they were going. So now let's get to the nitty gritty. So we win New Hampshire, and I ended up going on a vacation, and my boyfriend and I were literally like passed out in bed, and I got a call. And I was in Vegas like, hey, like, what's up? And this is them calling me from the campaign. Now, they called everybody who they wanted to keep, maybe within the next 1 to 2 days after we got done. So I get a call from this lady, and she's talking very, very fast. She's like, hey, this is Rich, we want to send you to Massachusetts. I said, well, I was in talks about going to Maine and becoming a regional. No, well, we just need to know if this is going to be your decision. Can you let me know in the next 30 minutes? Like, I'm not going to lie, I was a little hungover or whatever. I was like, okay, well, I accept. So that was kind of like the first thing. Like, you know, we had talks about where we wanted to go next. We filled out documents, we did reviews, and we were kind of gaslighted about all the things that go into it, and they kind of picked us at random. But at that point, I was starting to find out through group chats, and since I woke up, that in that same day, a lot of people were getting laid off and not getting brought back. Don't mark me, but about 30% of our staff came back, and I do not believe that 30% of staff literally should have only been chosen to come back. Even though I was one of those chosen people, and I was very, very thankful about that, I didn't agree that some of my good bosses and some of my mentors, people who made me a better organizer, who were women and men too, great people, were pushed aside, and they didn't get to move up. You know, it's still some shit to it. So I put all these things in consideration, and I reached out to my 2 other coworkers. My boss directly got moved up, and my other coworker, she did too. And we moved along to Massachusetts together. And the big thing about that whole thing that threw me off at first was when I had the first conversation with my boss. My boss for Massachusetts, he was not at all qualified, I felt, to do his job. And with that being said, I voiced that to some of my peers, and, you know, it's a lot of he said, she said, and it's a lot of, you know, this person's like this and this person was like that. So I didn't pass judgment on this gentleman, but I definitely didn't feel the vibe with him. I felt like he wasn't supportive. I had a good boss coming from this and good mentors and things like that, and I just felt like he wasn't qualified. So I went into Massachusetts feeling like it's not that many of us, what's happening? And as time started to go on, I was like, Chynna, you should probably look into getting another job. So I was there for about a week, and this incident is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So we basically had Massachusetts cut up into, get me wrong, 4 or 5 places, and it was less than 10 people on staff. Keep in mind, in New Hampshire, we had over 50 organizers on staff, and that's why we won, because we had the manpower. And that's really my logic about why we started to teeter, is because we started to get rid of staff. So with that being said, I got a joke from my boss basically saying like, yeah, you know, Western Massachusetts is very tough. It's a lot of cities. I was covering about 40, 50 cities. I'm not from this place. I know how to organize my ass off. So they wanted to give that to me because they knew that I could do it and I can handle it. But one thing that I wasn't going to handle is disrespect. These people were extremely rude to me. I had to be a yes man to my volunteers. My volunteers were being overworked. We didn't have literature. We didn't have anything for our volunteers to be successful. Our leadership was lacking and there was no leadership there. My volunteers, I understand, and I was able to empathize with these people. I'm this woman coming in, so like, so what are you doing? Are you having phone banks? Are you launching canvases? I came there, my volunteers were doing everything that I did and not getting paid, and I felt like that was free labor. My old coworkers wanted to come and still help the movement, and I turned them down. I said, I don't want y'all to come and volunteer with me because I feel like this is free labor and it's a slap in the face. Go organize here with these other folks who are also still on the campaign like myself, but I'm not gonna deal with your free labor and do that because that shit's wrong. So the straw that broke the camel's back to it was this lady. I needed someone who was going to be a Spanish speaker. I needed somebody who was going to be passionate about their culture to talk to my people. I don't speak Spanish, and the city that I was representing, one of the 50 million, had a lot of Spanish speakers. So they hyped up this lady to me and all these things, and I was so excited to like meet her and talk to her, and you know, our conversation went left right off the bat because it was a lack of communication between the volunteers and their new organizer. So I came in asking these ladies these questions like, do you have this ready? Do you have that ready? Do you have a canvas ready? Okay, you canceled your canvas. You deleted your event. Okay, now how are we gonna fix this? Da 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 da. So the questions that I had to ask her were basically this. Her event was still online, and then she took it down because she didn't have anybody coming to her event. Again, that's why people should not have to build events when they're also volunteering. That is the organizer's job. That's what I get paid to do. So you can show up and be helpful and canvas and help us out. So she came in this conversation like, who is this girl? Like trying to tell me what to do. I'm trying to troubleshoot with her why she deleted her event. And she started to get sour with me. So I had to speak very directly to her. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I know how to deal with people. I've dealt with people my whole life. I'm an actor. I know how to talk softly. I know how to be direct. So I asked her, I said, so are you going to be able to do this canvas on Saturday? Well, I think my times are already on there. That's what she told me. No, ma'am, they're no longer on there because the event was deleted. So are you able to do this? Are you able to do that? I went down the checklist. I was short and sweet. She said, okay, yeah, like I'm able to do it. So I said, all right, well, I will reach out. We're excited to have you. I was still excited. It irritated me, but I was like, you know, this comes with the territory because nobody was on the same page. This woman calls my supervisor. She calls my supervisor and then she sends a group text between me and my supervisor. And I was driving at the moment, and for whatever reason, Jesus exists, I did not get the text. I didn't get it. And my boss calls me immediately like, Chynna, you're getting a text from so-and-so. She's very unhappy and she said that she feels uncomfortable to work with you. She said the conversation was odd. She said that she no longer wanted to have conversations with me and she wanted to talk through my boss and that I made her feel uncomfortable. And never in my organizing life, you guys can call up any of my bosses, any of my jobs. I've never been unprofessional. Never. This woman had an issue with me out of her own non-self-worth. She had an issue with me about her own insecurities because it was me coming to her as a young woman saying, lady, what do you have up? What are we doing? How are we going to get Bernie to win? These are not things that we need to do. So I was following protocol, and I guess she was following her protocols, and these protocols didn't match up. So I told my boss, okay. But that shit hurt me. That hurt. A volunteer saying they didn't want to deal with me. And I knew that it was not her fault or my fault, but it was a lack of information that was going on. So I said, okay. I said, all right. Second straw, we had to find an office. And since they didn't send any staff before we got done with New Hampshire, because I understand we got to ride the wave. We needed an office in the city that I had to represent. One of the biggest cities in Massachusetts, Springfield. So my volunteer who was getting overworked already, who was supposed to be handling these things, he reaches out to me like, I can't find anywhere. My boss already gave him that job to do. I said, okay, well, I still need you to find it, even though I felt bad. He's like, well, I just got off work. I got out of school. I'm still trying to find offices. People should not have to do this. My volunteers don't have to do this. But since I have to represent 45 other places, I can't even help or represent anybody in that city because I have to be somewhere else that day. So I said, just send an email to me and my boss and tell me why you can't find the office. So he does that, and then my boss goes ahead and gives his job to me. So I can say, okay, let me go and see what's going on. Nobody wanted to give us an office because it was a 1.5 week timeline. Nobody wanted to give up a lease in that time. The budget was very low, which is fine, fair, but I needed some assistance. So I told my boss that. I found a nice place from a nice volunteer who would let us do it in her father's storefront for free, as long as we cleaned up after ourselves and brought fans because it didn't have air, but it was still been a field office. And my boss told me no. He said, we can't use that for whatever reason. And he said, you better find a new office and fast, LOL. And that's what my boss told me. Find a new office and fast, LOL. So LOL, that's when I was LOL done. I made sure that I handled everything I needed to handle that next day. I reached out to everybody I knew about getting a new job. I said, this is not going to last. Take it back, the first day that I got this job and I was sitting on the couch in Boston, I was already filling out applications to become a new union organizer because I just couldn't take this shit anymore. The people were rude and I needed a backup plan. So, this is tough. That's when I made the decision to leave. I made the decision to leave. I said, I'm not going to deal with this shit anymore. I made sure that my volunteers were set up because I knew that I was going to go ahead and put in my resignation, whatever it is, that day. So I made sure all my volunteers were set up. I made sure everybody was good, and then I didn't show back up. I did not come. I sent my boss an email and I said, I no longer am going to be a part of the campaign. I appreciate the time and it's been lovely. I did it short and sweet. I didn't need to explain why because I was just done with the bullshit. My direct boss calls me. I don't answer because I don't have shit to say at this point. I don't have anything to say because I am how I am and I gotta get my mind right. Then they call my boss. My boss who gave me the job. My old mentor. They call and tell me to him that I left. Didn't answer. It's not shit to talk about. Y'all not gonna do me dirty. My coworker's calling me. I answered some of my girl coworkers, I will say. But y'all not gonna do me dirty and then ask me to come back when I'm not being supported how I need to be supported. I'm good at my fucking job, but this is not my field of work. I am good at it, but I'm not going to bust my ass for it if people are gonna be disrespectful. So those rude people who I dealt with, and I've dealt with a lot of nice people from a lot of places. I've dealt with New Yorkers, I've dealt with people from Idaho, I've dealt with people from Minnesota, I've dealt with people from all over places. But these people in Massachusetts, they really outdid themselves and I just couldn't do it. So that's why I left Massachusetts. I called my girl, my favorite black coworker, I told her, I said, girl, I have to leave, I'm not doing this shit no more. And she said, that's a choice. Take your choice and own it, and I took my choice and owned it, and I left. I didn't let anybody else get into my spirit because I knew what my spirit needed and I didn't need to be on this campaign anymore. And then, shit turns around. So since I put in all these applications and all these things, I started to see that the campaign was starting to teeter and totter, and we ended up losing Massachusetts. Now, we didn't lose Massachusetts because of me. We didn't lose it because of my 4, 5, 6, 7 other co-workers. We lost it because staff was cut. And I don't know why staff was cut. So maybe one day somebody will tell me the answer and tell us all the answers of why staff was really cut. But you have to have staff and you have to invest in your people and your organizers and your team in order to be successful. We didn't win New Hampshire by a lot, but just enough because we were busting our asses. Busting our asses. But you want people, your top, basically your big strong people who you believe, to go and bust their ass and get treated like shit because we're not on the same page. And that's not cool. I don't agree with it. And I'm sorry that I have to be so blunt, but I don't agree with it. So this is why I'm saying this underlining theme is to still continue on faith. So I put my foot out on faith and I left the campaign. He started to lose other places. And I'm like, it's because of the field staff. And people are starting to talk, it's because of the field staff. We don't have a staff anymore. People are getting thrown out left and right. And I was happy that I left because I'm like, I'm not going to deal with this shit anymore. I'm not going to deal with it. So now we're going to fast forward to maybe 2 weeks ago. One of my old co-workers who I love dearly, she was, pregnant. Her and her husband are expecting, and that's a beautiful thing. And campaign life is tough. and people don't know where they're going, and promises again weren't being kept. So we had a really in-depth conversation, a personal conversation about, you know, our growth and opportunities, and she had another opportunity. And I encouraged her to take that opportunity. You would be closer to home. There was a lot of other elements. I didn't have a baby, I don't have kids, but I empathized with her and her situation. So I said, girl, take this job. And through me telling my friend who I care about a lot to step out on faith, she had faith in me to give me another opportunity. About 3 weeks ago, I was working at a call center. I had to get a job because I wanted to still stay here with my boyfriend and sustain myself because we want to move to California this year. And with the corona shit, I was thankful to still have a job. So with that being said, I ended up getting a call from her, and where's my boyfriend coming? I'm doing my YouTube video. Hold on. So I ended up getting a call from her, and she told me that it was an opportunity now on the table, and that since she took the job, they're now ready to hire a staff who's working from home. And since this is in the state of Maine, it's for a senator's race, we're able to be in a place where we're safe and at home, but also we're going to be able to spread the wonderful word of who she is as a person and really get her out there. So through me stepping out on faith and me really having faith in the situation and trusting in God and trusting in other people and really leaning on my peers and asking for advice and really getting my mindset to make a move, I was blessed with another move. And guess what? Now that the campaign is over, basically, in hindsight, people are without jobs. Everybody wanted to stay on this campaign, and I understand it's because we love Bernie, but we needed to look much deeper. And I don't know if my peers had wolves over their eyes or things like that, but we had to look at the reality of things like that. I'm very money motivated, but I just knew by the way things were going, we weren't going to be successful. And if your job is not respecting you, then you need to have some respect for yourself and find a place that's going to respect you. If I did not make that move, I would not be in a position that I am in today. And I am blessed enough to be working from home today. I'm on another campaign until July. God is good. I'm making good money. And you can't be in a place that makes you unhappy. You can't be in a place that you don't feel like you can grind. And sometimes you gotta, when it's dead, it's dead. You know, people make jokes to me now about wanting jobs and things like that, but I know people mean it because we all need a job. We all need a job right now. But those were some of the same people that wanted to, you know, blow smoke up my butthole and make me feel like it's something that it's not and it wasn't. So with that being said, that is why I left the Bernie Sanders campaign. I still will always support Bernie and love him as a person. The only thing that I wanted out of this more is I just wonder if Bernie knew about this. Did he really know? Did he know what happened? So with that being said, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the story time. You know, this is one of the realest story time videos that I've done. So if you really like my channel, please subscribe and like this video, give it a thumbs up. And I want to hear your comments on this. I want to hear your comments about the Bernie thing. Do you feel happy that he's gone? Sad? You know, how are y'all feeling about this? Because this is some shit we can always talk about. If you want to hear more politics shit, let me know. But thank you for watching, and welcome to China.